Today's D365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is the Dynamics 365 Finance Business Performance Planning. My name is Kevin Giardini, and I'm going to be your moderator for today. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Romain Pham, Product Manager, myself, Kevin Giardini, Senior Cloud Solutions Architect. We have Rich Black, Senior Fast Track Solutions Architect. Rich, please get us started today.
Sorry, let's take a quick look at today's agenda. We're going to start with an introduction to and an overview of business performance planning, which we'll reference going forward as BPP for brevity. And we'll discover how this tool fits in your business processes and Dynamics 365 ecosystem. We'll elaborate on the core concepts of model, connect, collaborate, and act as part of your planning cycles. And then we'll highlight some of the key features and capabilities and proceed to demonstrate some planning activities illustrating some of those key features and capabilities. Next, we'll look forward to the product roadmap and our plans for future enhancements. And after sharing some additional resources, we'll have time to address questions and share answers. So let's get started with that overview. Kevin?
All right. Thank you, Rich. So business performance planning is designed to enhance business agility by helping you continuously plan, take automated action, and analyze results for faster decision-making. It's part of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and is built on our Power Platform and is tightly integrated with the Microsoft stack of technologies. Users can create and enter budgets, forecasts, and strategic plans, and create what-if scenarios, all using familiar tools and experiences pictured here, which we'll explore further in a moment as well. One of the benefits is that this tool is flexible to support both financial and non-financial planning. It's an ideal tool to accelerate non-financial planning processes as well. BPP supports hybrid budgeting models, top-down, bottom-up, zero-based budgeting, etc. And with a configurable security model, BPP accommodates multiple personas, such as preparers, reviewers, approvers, who can all collaborate together using the configurable workflows and other processes within BPP. It provides a powerful tool set that enables you to develop Power BI dashboards and KPIs that fit your specific and unique planning processes, configuring your forecast to plan processes within BPP, and it requires some analysis of your data architecture and construction of your Power BI dashboards. Today's discussion and demonstration will provide an overview of how BPP can be used, and we'll highlight some of the flexible capabilities that can be adopted and adapted for your needs in collaboration with your implementation partner. Microsoft's approach to planning, analytics, and insights incorporates these key tenets. BPP is connected. We can pull in real-time information from across the organization to ensure comprehensive visibility. It's also collaborative. BPP employs dynamic workflows and collaborative platforms such as Teams and Outlook, enabling cross-functional teams to work together seamlessly. It's also intuitive. It utilizes user-friendly and widely accessible tools such as Power BI and Excel. Because these tools are familiar to the users, these experiences can be available to all organizational members, regardless of their technical expertise, and it promotes widespread engagement in the financial planning process. It's also intelligent. BPP can process and analyze vast amounts of raw data, generating insightful, compelling visualizations and forecasts that drive strategic decisions and future planning. We have opportunities to leverage AI and Copilot as well. And lastly, it's secure. BPP employs role-based and row-level security so that you can control what actions an employee can take and what data they can access. BPP can consolidate your planning so that you have a centralized and secure repository for all financial data and insights. So at a high level, this slide illustrates what the technical architecture of our BPP system looks like. This architecture outlines some of the key technical components and how they interact to support the planning process. The most important takeaway here is that the various components are all part of the D365 ecosystem. They're easily integrated with D365 sales, service, finance, and more using common tools like Power BI, Excel, the Dataverse, Power Automate, and Power Apps, which can all be leveraged not just for BPP, but for various aspects of your Dynamics implementation. As an example, the primary BPP user interface is Power BI, but we also use Power Automate to implement approval workflows with integrations to familiar collaboration tools, including Teams and Outlook, meeting users where they already are. We can enable Copilot experiences in Power BI and Excel, and soon in BPP as well. Because BPP is a Dataverse-based application, we can connect to any data source to bring in key planning drivers using data flows. So it's not just limited to Dynamics 365. Over the course of this presentation, this of course includes other Dataverse native applications like Dynamics 365 Sales and Service, or any combination of other ERPs or line of business applications and data stores. Note the dotted line here are areas of our current investment and something we will discuss in more detail in coming slides about the product roadmap and planned enhancements. So having had a glimpse at the technical architecture, we're going to change our focus to the functional process. Here's a basic distillation of the planning process, common across customers and industries. This typical planning journey characterizes planning activities in different financial and operational processes. So we start on the left with defining strategic and operational objectives, then administer the plan and create a new plan. Our administrator and power users configure the data, the BPP application, and publish this to Power BI. Then we can leverage Power Automate, Teams, and other Microsoft tools for automating distribution and notifications related to our plan. Next come in some of the key differentiating features of BPP that power the iterative process of facilitating contributor updates and management review. Our contributors, reviewers, and approvers use interactive, editable dashboards that are unique to BPP and extend Power BI capabilities. Then, after final review, our planning iterations culminate in acting on our plans. And this can include ongoing comparisons versus actual results, facilitating ongoing and continuous planning. These steps provide a basic framework for how we can use BPP to achieve our planning objectives. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Rich to review the model and connect.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. So next we're going to review and discover some of the core concepts here for working with business performance planning, including model and connect, and collaborate and act. And I think that this next slide distills some of the aspects of those concepts and provides a helpful depiction of the activities that we need to implement our planning processes. So I'm going to describe these processes briefly in a handful of screenshots, and then we'll do a couple of live demos. Now, this isn't going to be a step-by-step guide nor a sales demonstration, but it's intended to provide a high-level overview of the implementation process as well as a taste of the user experience. So if we start with the idea of modeling, we're going to work in our Canvas application. Here's a couple of glimpses of the Canvas application where we will create our dimensions, create our cubes, and maybe populate or maintain those dimension values and define security on those dimension values. We can connect in that Canvas application as well, and we can leverage a number of different means to import data, the most powerful of which is, of course, data flows. We can populate our dimension values right in an editable grid within that Canvas application, or we can use Excel, or we can connect using data flows, using any number of these connectors or Dataverse entities, such as, we can also populate our cubes, using these data flows. And that's probably the most common and powerful tool that we can use for importing real-life data and volumes. And an example of some of the Dataverse entities and tools that we can leverage with data flows include a GL trial balance entity that was added within finance and operations to help facilitate some of this import activity. But this data flows connector is an embedded experience right within our Canvas application. And that allows us to connect this data then to Power BI and design Power BI dashboards that really give us almost unlimited flexibility to design those dashboards in a manner that fits your specific process. Once we've used that Power BI desktop to publish our dashboards, we can provide access to these dashboards. And they're going to be comprised of regular Power BI components, in addition to these 7 predefined visuals that are unique to business performance planning and give us the capability to edit data as well as review and report on data, copy data within and between different scenarios, add comments to the changes that we might be making. And we're going to be leveraging Power BI. And similarly, we can also leverage Excel. And we can do that with a collaborative and editable interface. This is an example of the matrix visual that's unique to business performance planning, which can provide a spreadsheet-like editable interface. And we also have the capability to use a business performance planning Excel add-in that can be configured using a wizard to create an editable pivot table that allows us to similarly work with a spreadsheet, should we choose to do so in a manner similar to the matrix visuals that we can configure and publish in Power BI. And we could do this using the power of Power Automate to create configurable workflows so that when we are reviewing the impact of the collaborative changes that we're making, we can have our reviewers and approvers who are assigned through role-based security be automatically notified or participate in those approval processes. And we can see the updated status of some of the plans that we might be working with, as well as share those directly within Teams or share them through PowerPoint, providing access to updated information throughout the organization. So let's go ahead and jump from some slides to some actual views of the application here and illustrate some of those concepts that we were discussing. Now, our demonstration is going to begin with a bit of the administrator experience, just to review and touch on the underpinnings of the application before we explore some of the end user experiences and personas. Of course, our journey is going to start in the Power Platform Admin Center, and this is, of course, the administrative portal from where your Dynamics 365 applications are managed and administered. It's where we can launch our applications from, and it's also where we perform the first bit of our user setup, right? This is where our role-based security is assigned that determine which actions a user can take in our Dynamics application, such as being a business performance planning administrator or a power user or a plan contributor or limited contributor. Once we've installed and deployed our application, we can launch it and see that Canvas application again, where we can create our dimensions, create cubes from those dimensions, learn more about the various visuals and capabilities of business performance planning, and maintain these dimension values and maintain our dimension security once those dimensions and value and cubes are created. We'll take a quick glimpse at an example of a dimension that'll be featured in some of the demonstrations today, and that would be, a common dimension for financial planning and analysis, which is going to be an account dimension, and you can see the account categories and account types, and of course, these dimensions can have any number of attributes that can be linked to various other dimensions via linked columns. And we can populate, again, this dimensional data right here in this interface in this editable grid, or we can edit it in Excel, or of course we can load it from data flows, which we can automatically schedule and refresh from source environments. When we've defined and populated those dimensions, of course, we'll combine them into cubes, and we'll take a look at an example of a cube that we'll be working with, which is just a simple Contoso Financials cube consisting of a handful of dimensions here. and our amounts. And the amounts, the fact data in our cube is, of course, the numerical values that are going to be aggregated and allocated and analyzed and sliced and diced by all those various dimensions. And again, we can load that data, and we can load that data with the embedded interface here to create data flows. We got a glimpse earlier of an example of using the GL trial balance export process automation of that GL trial balance snapshot from finance and operations. But we can use any number of these connectors to import data from any source system, and again, schedule that data acquisition to happen on a scheduled basis here. And once we've done that, then we'll use our dimension groups to provide that row level security on the various dimensions, and control what access various groups of users might have to specific dimensions. So we can comprise a group of any number of users on any combination of dimensions, and we can choose to grant full access to all of the dimension values in that dimension, or read-only access to some of them, or some combination of access. So we might want users to be able to edit and contribute to plans for specific business units, for example, but not for others. One of the dimensions that we'll be talking about more is a scenario, and we might want users to be able to contribute to some scenarios, specific planning scenarios like a forecast that we'll be working with, however, not be able to but edit our actual values, our original actuals for which we want to use as our basis of comparison. So once we have created our cubes and our dimensions in our cubes, and populated all of that data and provided some application and row level security for that data, now it's time for us to use this data in our business performance dashboards, which will be constructed in Power BI. Now, an application administrator has used Power BI Desktop and our cube data to prepare these dashboards that we'll be looking at today. We're not going to delve into Power BI Desktop and the process for creating those dashboards at this point in time, but just note that you have unlimited flexibility to design dashboards that fit your planning processes and your workflows and your data model. Before we finish, you'll see a couple of different examples of dashboards today. And remember that in addition to the flexibility of native Power BI capabilities, we've got these custom visuals we're going to highlight specific to business performance planning that help make this the interactive, collaborative, and editable interface that's not simply presenting static data or requiring us to use spreadsheets to input our data. So all of our dashboards will be published to powerbi.com so that our power users and the various other contributors to our planning processes throughout the organization can have access to them. So now let's consider this from the perspective of a power user, someone who's highly engaged in the planning process, but not responsible for the application configuration or security configuration that we touched on briefly. Your power users might start on a control panel similar to this, where they can see a comparison of some of the planning activities or the status of some plans that might be in progress, as well as some other metrics. But before they have that to compare, they're probably going to want to start with our planning scenarios. And so this is an example of a scenario management dashboard in which we can actually create any number of planning scenarios. For our purposes today, we're going to be discussing mainly actual, maybe budget and forecast, but we can create any number of these and think of this as a what-if scenario engine. So we can create another forecast of any type, and we can go ahead and save that. And this is an example of a table edit visual that allows us to go ahead and create this additional plan, this additional forecast, another forecast in our scenario dimension. And so this will commit the scenario there into our Dataverse table. And now we'll be able to work with that another forecast here, right there, and begin some planning activities against it. But right now it is, of course, empty. It's a brand new, essentially dimension value stored in our Dataverse tables. And if you remember previously, in an earlier screen, our administrator populated our cube with some actuals. So those actuals, we're going to want to copy those into our newly created scenarios. We can do that right here using our copy visual. And this allows us to take data from that actual. You might recall that we had set that as a dimension group to be read only, and we're going to allow our power users here to go ahead and prepare this scenario. And maybe they'll copy it entirely, or maybe we want to be a little bit more selective with it and copy it over for a specific legal entity or for a specific year, for example. So we have the flexibility to be very granular with which data we're going to populate from which source to which target scenario destination. We can save. We can go ahead and copy that. And then that'll immediately create this planning data upon which we can begin our planning activities. Now, most organizations in their planning process do want to bring those historical values forward and use those as actuals to work from. But of course, we can work with zero-based budget planning scenarios as well. But let's imagine that we've got that copied over now. As you saw, that copy was successful. We're going to continue working, though, with a forecast that we've got ready here. And we're going to now kind of change hats and look at this from the perspective of a contributor. So if we look at how a sales or a revenue planner might participate in this process, once that forecast has been made available, they'll be able to access a dashboard like this, where we can go ahead and, for maybe the territory or the region or the company or the business unit or the department for which we're responsible for planning, we can come in here, we can select or be assigned those correct values, and we can check out our planning data right here in this matrix visual. And this matrix visual, again, provides this spreadsheet-like interface in which we can plan, and we can pop this out to give us a little bit more real estate to work with here. And we can expand these values. We can edit this right here, and we can do things like increase a value or just enter a value. And you can see as it changes to red, that means that value will be committed once we save and then refresh it. We can also use a handful of shortcuts. We can provide an increase, for example, of 10%. We can see the result of that. Or we could also fill that value right and use shortcuts. We can immediately see, upon saving and refreshing that value, the impact of our changes in our totals here, and it'll roll up into this P&L category that we happen to be looking at. Again, the hierarchy of your account structure would be reflected here slightly differently, but these values will roll up upon refresh. And similarly, if we were to select, if we back out, and if we were to select, a different combination of our legal entities or business units, those values would roll up there as well. Now, in addition to making those changes, we might want to provide input or insight as to what those changes, why they are. So we can paste a comment in here. For example, we can link that to some backup information, and we'll see a little bit in a few minutes how that might be relevant to the planning process. Now, we can repeat an exercise similar to this for OpEx. We can use another visual here, a graphic planning visual. If we were to wear the hat of a planner, one of the things that we can do is use this visual to slide values here directly in a graphical interface, as opposed to editing values in the spreadsheet. And if we were to lock the total, we could reallocate those values across the x-axis, in this case across time periods, proportionally, without affecting the total overall, or while maintaining the same total. So changing those ratios. And of course, we can commit that change. One additional thing to highlight that we might want to do is we may not want to enter those values for an individual dimension. Let's pop this out a little bit larger. We might want to plan on perhaps a percentage increase across all of these child accounts, for example. So if we were to, again, say that we want to anticipate a 10% increase in these values, that's going to accommodate increases in rent or various expenses, we can go ahead and make that change, and you'll see that the allocation operation will complete. And when we refresh the visual, we'll be able to see that our admin expense has, once it's been refreshed here, we'll be able to see that this expense has been proportionally allocated among all of the children accounts here. Now, in addition to our various types of planning edits that we're going to make, we're also going to have some approvers who want to see the impact of the changes that we're making, right? They might want to review the reporting. So we can see, for example, the impact of the plans that we're making to our forecast in a reporting visual. And here we have a consolidated income statement that we've configured. We're comparing two scenarios, the actual to the forecast, and we can check the variance between those two scenarios right here. And on the tooltip, we can see those variances. We can organize some of our account categories a little bit differently here. We can see in a variance visual those specific discrepancies or differences between our forecast and our actual values here as well. And this, again, a couple different examples of dashboards can take a couple of different forms. I can look at another example of the reporting visual, and this is just a slightly different one. But of course, we've had those contributors, right, making those edits to the different entities or departments for which they're responsible for planning. But we can, of course, see the impact of those in those specific entities, or at whatever level of consolidation that we want to. And we can see these values, updated in real time, aggregated across all of those various different hierarchies that we might want to. And we can use our reporting visual here to drill down into these or view them at a higher or consolidated level. And those various comments that we might have entered during the planning process, we can also use those comments to drill in, if you will, to those specific changes that our team members might be forecasting. So by clicking on those comments, we can take a look at those specific accounts and navigate back out to our reporting visual here. Now, all of this can happen, and as we complete these different processes and review, we might want to also complete whatever the planning process might be. In this case, this is a retail sales forecasting one. We might want to approve, right, and fire off some approval notifications or workflows. So if we have a workflow that might be, a planning process that might be not started, we might want to kick that off and change it to in progress. If we've just completed one, as we saw, and it looked good, we wanted to approve it, we can mark that completed. And then in the background, this can configure, or can be configured with our Power Automate workflow notifications to go ahead and begin an approval process, send email notifications, so on and so forth. We can also share this directly to a Teams channel, invite a team of collaborators to work with it, or send it to an individual. And of course, we can embed some of these visuals, maybe the reporting visual or some of our graphs. We can embed those into PowerPoints so that everyone has the latest values. Now, we also want to take a brief look at some of the driver-based planning capabilities. I want to drill in a little bit closer here to an example using workforce planning. Since we've had just a quick overview of some of the collaborative features and an example of sales and revenue and operational expense planning activity, I'm going to use a workforce planning example to illustrate some of the basic driver-based functionality that we have. And I have a couple of different cubes to illustrate that. You saw in our earlier example where we had financial dimensions. Here we have some HR dimensions. We have positions. And our drivers, the variables that we can control include amount and headcount. And we've created a computed column here for wages, which is the product of the amount and the headcount. Those variables we're going to change. Now, this is, again, a simple example, but we've got this formula here, and this is PowerFX. This is an Excel-like language that's very accessible to our power users, and our this puts the capabilities of these planning features into the hands of more of our users. So if we go back and we look at this workforce planning example, those amount and headcount drivers, these variables that we can change, we can anticipate, for example, developing a new product and bringing more software developers on board. So we can look at the impact of adding more software developers right here. We could anticipate maybe in a heated market, an increase in wages. And again, as we save and refresh these values, we'll see these totals update across our columns, across our rows, and in total, as well as in the visuals that our standard Power BI visuals up here. So as that saves and as we refresh it, then we can, of course, also use the standard Power BI visuals to highlight and draw focus to some of these things that we want to see. And because this data is being updated in our forecast scenario, we can have any number of changes to this data from any number of users collaborating concurrently, around the world, wherever they may be. And see the changes that we're making in real time. And again, by highlighting some of these, we can leverage our standard Power BI functionality in creative ways. So that was a simple example. I'll take one more example here before we move on of introducing just a handful of additional variables. And remember that we had our cube that had a couple of drivers and one computed column. In this example, I'm going to use many more computed columns. I'm going to calculate a couple of these values. And these are going to be, again, our base compensation is going to be a key driver for us, but it's going to form the basis of calculation for total compensation. So if we have a base compensation and we add some allowances, or we multiply that to determine maybe the contribution to a retirement account for an eligible employee, or the amount of a bonus determined by a performance rating, we can make changes to not only these base values, maybe for an individual entry or an individual record here. We can make a change here. We can also make a change to our allowance, for example, and we can see the impact of that allowance also calculated. And again, we have the ability to make changes like allocations for not just those individual records, but if we wanted to, for example, spread an increase of 0.5%, we can see that the effect of that allocation on the dimension values below that here. So that's just an illustration there. You see the value has refreshed of what we can begin to do here with the power of our computed columns and our driver-based planning. So Very quickly now, having run through some of those demonstrations, I want to just recap some of those key features and capabilities and what we have available here. Highlighting again those 7 Power BI visuals out of the box, the ability to work with our data flows to add this data behind the scenes, to provide comments in our planning, to work with any number of scenarios and do that what if planning. Giving you the ability to schedule those refreshes, control the security with restricted access, and even add in that Excel add-in if you really do still want to use some spreadsheets in your planning process. I don't know if we saw specifically the ability to use the linked columns in your dimension structure, but that provides a lot of flexibility in your cube design. Sorry, we did see the embedded data flow experience there. We have the editable grids we took a look at in the dimension management there, our dimension groups to provide some granular security on the data that is in our cubes. The use of the Excel add-in, our limited contributor role, and this is from the latest licensing guide, helps you make this more accessible to your users who might already have Dynamics Finance licenses. And of course, we had that demonstration of the driver-based planning. So again, I want to underscore the secret sauce, if you will, or the special sauce for these special purpose Power BI visuals that make this a collaborative and interactive process. And again, not just Power BI reports that require you to use spreadsheets and then present static data. So having run through some of those features and given you a quick taste of the administrator and end user experiences there, or an example of what those might be, I'd like to invite our colleague Romain to tell us a little bit about the product roadmap and what we have planned and coming soon. Romain?
Thank you, Rich. Amazing presentation. Yeah, super excited to talk to you guys today about our what's coming soon in terms of capabilities. So what's going to be delivered by the end of this month is our audit change management tracking capabilities. You can see some screenshot here on the right side of the screen. And then we will share a video right after. This feature will basically help you to track down all of the change that has been made to your cube and to your dimensions. So basically giving you the context, who did that change, what was the previous value, what is the new value, and when this change occurred. Second feature that's coming by the end of this month is the generative help and guidance with Copilot. For those who are familiar with BPA, it's a Copilot sidecar that's going to come up where you can, the user who are in the business performance planning application will be able to ask questions about BPP and what it can do. And the response will be based on our official Microsoft Learn documentation. Finally, this feature will come up next month in April, is our export-import solution templates. Basically, what that feature will enable you is to basically package your cube dimension that you've created in one environment and then export and import into a different environment. This will allow our partner and customer to accelerate the deployment, especially for different entities or different environments. That is where the initial data model planning has been developed, and proposing to develop pre-build template in terms of cubes and then deploy them rapidly. And now I want to show you a quick video of our audit change management tracking capabilities. So yes, we know that we have the feedback from our customer that we need to help you track down all of the change that happened to the cube, especially during budget and forecast process, to help more understand what's going on. So here you see that we are on the matrix visual. So we're going to perform a change. What's great about these features is that the change management track changes both at the sales level, but as well at the higher roll-up level. So basically, you will be able to identify if a change has been made at a higher level and been broken down or allocated at a lower levels, as well as you will see if the change has been made at the lowest level. Via the tooltip. And as well, you will see the view audit summary, which is a side panel that's going to pop. And here you will have all of the change that happen in the context of the visuals, and then you will be able to check the changes and then as well apply some filter. As well, so in our roadmap, so expanded feature set. So we're gonna actually change make improvement into our business performance planning application, especially around the cube modeler, to enable you to build cubes in a faster way, which include the second biggest feature, a deeper integration with Dynamics 365 Finance, which is going to include a connector to connect to business performance analytics data model directly, retrieve the data in tables, and to enable you to build a cube based on those data in a very easy and fast way. And through that connector, which enables us to access all of the table from BPA, that means that when the BPA data model expand to include more value chain, such as project operation, and as well in the future demand planning, we will be able to access directly those data and incorporate them into BPP to make new plan. As well in our roadmap, so planning insights and forecasts. So we want to leverage the same way demand planning proposed today, AI forecast and machine learning forecast to enable you to create quick plan, trend plan, detect anomalies, and so on, to enable you faster plan and decision making. First, we want to as well have build more capabilities that leverage Copilot and agents to accelerate your planning and all of the operations that are necessary during your processes. So that's something we are working on currently and the use case. And finally, we want to optimize the approval workflow management via Copilot. So basically helping you create and manage those approval workflow management during budget and forecast processes to enable more easily configure the lock and lock of budget of scenarios, approve or reject, and the collaboration around that. While today everything is possible with Power Automate, but it requires some work and some configuration. So we would like to work on simplifying that. And now a quick video on our vision for the new modeler for business performance planning.
Finance teams face significant barriers due to outdated data and siloed tools, leading to manual, time-consuming processes and slower decision-making. Dynamics 365 ERP with business performance planning can make this simpler by bringing together planning analytics and insights on a single platform to connect financial and operational data. Our vision is to leverage interconnected information to optimize planning collaboration with familiar tools and transform plans into action. This will be a multi-phase journey, but we'll start by focusing on the following experience. It's Elliot's first day using business performance planning. From home, he can start creating cubes and dimensions right away. After choosing to create a new cube, he starts by selecting a data source. Elliot can see his Dynamics 365 finance data is already available, so he selects the data he wants to plan with and the preview on the right updates to show his selection. Elliot reviews the data that he has imported, and from here, he can add additional data sources, as well as open Power Query to transform and preview the data in more detail before proceeding. Previously, Elliot would have to connect each data set manually, but BPP starts to connect and transform his data sources into a star schema. Success! In a few moments, Elliot can already see a draft version of his model. From here, he can easily navigate between draft and published cubes, and within the model view, he can select any cube or dimension to view its properties such as columns, mappings, and security. Within the Properties panel, he can even see a preview of the fact and dimension data within his draft before publishing the full dataset. After importing the data, Elliot sees that BPP can even notify him of data anomalies, with suggestions for how to clean the data and have it ready to publish. Once the data has been enriched and is ready for planning, Elliot can publish to the Dataverse. Directly from BPP, Elliot can open the model in Power BI, notify his FP&A department planners, and even export the model bundled with the reporting dashboard. And that's how business performance planning can deliver a collaborative and integrated planning solution that connects operations to financials, providing unmatched insights and actionable plans.
Thank you, Rich. So here is a quick overview of our roadmap. So what have been released and what is currently being released and what's on the plan publicly. So again, change management tracking FGC, generative happen guidance, and the extensibility. And as well, of course, we want to basically what we are planning for the wave 1 of 2025 is going to start in April is really improving and incentivize our customer that are already on finance for them to really make plan based on their finance actual data and reach them to get their planning cubes faster through the door and then start planning quicker. As well, we're going to start planning quickly with template solutions. So what that means is that it is true that today when you install BPP, you don't have any templates. So only template that's available are the one we're going to provide in our resources later, but then you have to configure the connection and so on. What we want to provide to you in the next coming months is basically template for OPEX, CAPEX, workforce planning, and so on that is based directly on BPA data. And then basically offer you a Pro BI app, which is a collection of report and dashboard that will enable you to have those data feed in directly and then show you how BPP can work directly like this and then offer you the possibility to customize it further down the road. And finally, put planning into action using outlier detection. It's leveraging one of our AI forecast algorithms that we have and that already leveraged by demand planning to put it into our BPP solution, enable you to detect any anomalies that if happen through basically different between your actuals or your budget or your forecast, and then enable you to take action on it.
All right. Thank you, Romain. Let's go ahead and Kevin, I'll ask you to tell us about some of the resources that can help us get started with business performance planning.
So right here, we've got a number of different resources that we're eager to share. And this is going to help facilitate your exploration and adoption of BPP. First and foremost, we do have a Viva Engage group, which provides a forum to ask questions, learning. We also have a monthly office hours that's held on the first Wednesday of each month. That you can join and learn, but please go to that Viva Engage group and join us there to get access to other resources in those office hours. We also have links to the Microsoft Learn documentation, training, and a SharePoint site that we've created that's full of recording, labs, and other assets that can be used for learning. We also encourage everyone to join the Insider program and explore the Ideas portal, where you can share your ideas for product enhancements as well. And finally, the most recent licensing guide has specifics about acquiring the D365 Finance and Finance Premium licenses that are needed as part of the BPP solution.
All right, let's move on to some questions and answers here.
Romain, there's some questions around the AI-based forecasting capabilities.
Yes. So for that part, so it's on our roadmap. At least right now, we don't have any forecast capabilities embedded within BPP. We are actively working on it, leveraging basically and putting at your disposition the same type of forecast algorithm that demand planning has, but into the BPP context. So that's something we're actively working on. However, in terms of insights, because BPP is deeply embedded with Power BI, you can and all of the data is in Dataverse, so you can leverage all of the insights and AI insights provided by Power BI, as long as, of course, you have the proper licensing on that part.
All right. Another kind of common question that I've seen a few of is, default cubes and reports. What do we have available as default, as well as, anything built for demos at the same time?
Yeah. So as I mentioned in my the slide roadmap, so we are now working on templates with basically a default template to for the most common FP&A processes. In terms of default cube, the way we are looking at it right now is when you're gonna connect to BPA directly and get the table from there, we're gonna provide you with some pre-settings, right? So pre-settings that you are free to modify or not in terms of table selection and so on. But then if you decide to go with our recommended pre-settings, then we will be able to build your cube for you and then feed those out-of-the-box templates. Like this, you can get started quickly, see the capabilities of BPP, but as well with your data, with your own BPA data that's coming straight from FNO. So that's what we're working towards. That's going to achieve multiple purposes, of course, for you, partner, to be able to demonstrate the value of BPP, but as well for our customers that are already on finance and leveraging BPA to get them faster to plan and start basic planning with their FNO data.
Can you, I know we talked about it, but I've definitely seen some questions talking about where the finance premium license is needed versus some of the other standard licenses and where that line is stands.
Yeah, no, great question. So yeah, we have a change into our licensing recently as well. So basically, to summarize, that any person will need to administrate BPP, basically giving access, configuring cube, dimension, loading data in there, will need a finance premium license. Then in Power BI, any user who wants to edit basically the tables, the dimensions, create a new scenario, for example, and then use our copy visuals to do bulk copy of for example, to do what-if analysis. And I've seen that question as well. So to do what-if analysis, basically you will create a new scenarios in your dimension scenarios, and then you will bulk copy data from one scenario to this newly created scenario to create your new what-if analysis. And then you will be able to start modifying your data. And to perform those kind of action, you will need a finance premium license. However, a simple operation activity license will be required to perform changes to the cube. Means that contributing to an existing scenarios, making updates, and then consuming the reporting visuals, only operation activity license will be required. And of course, the classic finance license will be enough for those users to actually contribute as well to plan.
We've also, I believe we talked about it, but there's been a number of questions around how does this integrate with other solutions? So just touch real quick on where how we integrate with all of the different solutions and not just D365 finance and supply chain.
Yeah, no, great question. So first, I think the most burning question is like, how do we integrate with demand planning, which basically is supposed to go and feed into BPP to help us prepare a forecast or a plan. So as of now, we don't integrate directly with demand planning. So there's two ways for you to actually leverage the data from demand planning. Is either if demand planning pushes back the data to FNO, then you leverage your data flow connector with OData connector to retrieve those data and then load them into Dataverse. Second option is you can export a flat file from a CSV file from demand planning and then host it somewhere that BPP using Dataflow can retrieve. That is right now the two ways that you can get demand planning data. However, as we are working now to build the BPA connector, and to access to all of the data that are loaded into the BPA data model, on demand planning integrate with BPA, or BPA retrieve the data from demand planning and from any other Microsoft solution, BPP will be able to retrieve it. So they will be fully integrated with any data. Regarding third-party data source, we integrate perfectly by leveraging Dataflow. So as long as there is a Dataflow connector, is a way for Dataflow to connect to your third-party data, you will be able to connect and then feed those data into a BPP Dataverse table.
All right. I think we have time for one more question here.
Kevin, one of the questions that I see out there is regarding the what if scenario capabilities. We didn't get a chance to cover that in extensive detail, but we do have a demonstration that we'll be publishing shortly, which concerns retail sales forecasting as an example. And that example, I'll tease that here. We can look forward to that because it does indeed provide an example of the ability to modify multiple different input variables and see the cascading effect on resulting forecasts. And then take one of those scenarios, forecasts, and go ahead and copy it again to make some last minute changes before reviewing and approving. So definitely what if scenario capability is something that we can definitely do here with business performance planning. So with that said, Kevin, I think we'll hand it back to you to wrap us up.
Yep. We do want to thank you for attending. Thank you to all of our presenters and to you, our audience, for attending to our Tech Talk